I had a vote over on my Patreon as to what the first build of the year should be, and everybody wanted to see Doomguy from the Doom video game series, also known as Doom Slayer. So that's what we're going to build for Dungeons & Dragons, because this is D&D Builds, where we have an outlet to make all sorts of Dungeons & Dragons characters and stop driving the people in our lives insane with them. The Doom Slayer is a space marine that has to combat the forces of demons and fiends or whatever the hell they are, and we're going to be jumping around quite a bit with this character, but I'm excited to dive in. And first things first, we got to pick a race, and he is a human. Although he is known to be an empowered human, we're actually going to go with a straight up normal human, because even though this isn't much of a spoiler, I'm definitely going to be doing a multi-class, and I want to be able to dive into whatever the hell I want, because we're known as Doom, Doom Marine, Doom Slayer, Hellwalker, Unchained Predator, Scourge of Hell, the Slayer, the Beast, Doomguy, or even the Outlander. And with so many titles, we need a multi-class and we need to be very widespread. And the fact that being a normal human allows you to have +1 into every ability score is really going to be helpful for that. Then when it comes to a background, since you're obviously a space marine, we're going to choose the Wild Spacer background. This comes from the Spelljammer books, and it's pretty much just a straight upgrade to the marine background, because it still gives us skill proficiencies in athletics and survival, tool proficiencies in navigator's tools and space vehicles, and then it has the additional bonus of giving us the feat Tough, giving us an additional 2 hit points per level, which we're definitely going to need because you're hard to kill. Then when it comes to stats, like I said, we want to be well-rounded and we want to be able to jump into a lot of stuff. So we're going to take our strength, bump it to 14, and then get a +1 from our racial bonus, bringing it to 15. This is going to be super helpful because Doomguy wears some pretty obviously heavy armor. We now have the ability to wear the heaviest plate armor we can with that 15 strength requirement. Then we're going to take our dexterity, our constitution, our wisdom, and our charisma and bump them all to 13, and then get a +1 into each of those thanks to our racial bonus, bringing all of them to a very usable 14. That leaves our intelligence dumped at 8, but it still gets bumped up to 9 thanks to our racial bonus. I don't think Doomguy is particularly dumb, but we only got so many points to go around. Then when it comes to a starting class, he is obviously trained as a space marine. And when I think of a marine, it's all about being very well trained at fighting, so we're going to grab a fighter for our first level. This gives us proficiency with all armor and all weapons. Then we get saving throws in strength and constitution, and we get to choose 2 skills. So we're going to grab perception because it's helpful in pretty much any game, and then intimidation because you are the Doom Slayer. Then at first level of fighter, you get a fighting style. And since we want to make sure we can attack in any way possible, and we do see Doom Slayer do some straight up beatdowns and tearing creatures apart, we're going to take the fighting style, Unarmed Fighting. This allows you to just straight up punch your enemies, dealing 1d6 plus your strength modifier, or 1d8 if you happen to not have anything in your hands. Additionally, at the start of each of your turns, you can deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage to one creature that's grappled by you. Additionally, at first level of fighter, we get access to Second Wind. So as a bonus action, you can regain some hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. You can only use this once per short or long rest, but it's still very, very helpful. Then at second level of fighter, we get Action Surge, allowing us to take an entire extra action once per short or long rest. Then at third level of fighter, we get to choose a martial archetype, also known as a fighter subclass. And within the Doom games, you're constantly dealing with runes. So I want to choose the Rune Knight. This gives you a bonus proficiency with Smith's tools, so you can upgrade that suit of armor, and you learn to speak, read, and write Giant, even though that doesn't really apply too much to the game, but you also get Rune Carver. So at this level, you can learn 2 runes, and you can use those runes on a weapon or suit of armor. You can choose a Cloud Rune, giving you advantage on sleight of hand and deception checks, and allowing you to use your reaction to change the direction of an incoming projectile coming at you. So when that ranged attack is fired off, you can possibly have it hit one of your enemies instead. Or you can use a Fire Rune, which feels a little more fitting considering the overall firepower you generally have, doubling your proficiency bonus for any ability check that you make that uses your proficiency with a tool. And when you hit a creature with an attack using a weapon, you can invoke the rune to summon Fiery Shackles. The target takes an extra 2d6 fire damage, and must succeed on a strength saving throw or be restrained for 1 minute. And when a creature is restrained, you have advantage on any attacks against them. Plus, when they're restrained by these shackles, they take an additional 2d6 fire damage at the start of each of its turns. While the target makes a strength save to be restrained in the first place, they can also repeat that saving throw on each of its turns to hopefully break out of those shackles, but this is still a pretty damn powerful rune. Or you can go the opposite way and go with a frost rune, giving you advantage on animal handling and intimidation checks, and you can use a bonus action to increase your sturdiness, giving you +2 bonus to all of your ability checks and saving throws in strength or constitution for up to 10 minutes. Then the last rune you can use at this level is the stone rune, giving you advantage on insight checks, and you have dark vision all the way to 120 feet, and when a creature you can see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and force the creature to make a wisdom save, and unless it succeeds, it's charmed by you for 1 minute. While charmed in this way, the creature has speed of 0 and is incapacitated, and basically puts it into this weird dream stupor. There are some additional runes you can choose, but only once you hit 7th level in this class. There is one more feature that you get from being a rune knight. It might not fit super well for Doomslayer, but it's still pretty badass, so it's fun to play around with because it's giant might. As a bonus action, you can magically change yourself for 1 minute, growing to become a large-sized creature, giving you advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, and once on each of your turns when you hit with a weapon or unarmed strike, you deal an extra 1d6 damage to any target hit by you. You can only use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but you regain all uses when you finish a long rest. Then at 4th level of fighter, you get an ability score improvement, and I'm going to take a feat right away because you have quite the arsenal at your disposal and there is tons of guns to choose from, so I'm going to take the feat Gunner. This increases our dexterity by 1 point and gives you proficiency with firearms, which you can find in the Dungeon Master's Guide. You get to ignore the loading property of firearms, so you can fire them much more quickly, because if you have to deal with that loading property, that means you can only fire once on your action, no matter what. Lastly, this feat allows you to attack hostile creatures with a ranged weapon, even if they're within 5 feet of you, without imposing disadvantage. So it's like blasting somebody short range with a shotgun. If your table doesn't allow for guns in the gameplay, you can swap this out for Crossbow Expert, but you might have to tweak a few things here and there, and then you'll just pretend to be using a crossbow instead of a gun whenever you're playing. Then at 5th level of fighter, you get the all-important extra attack. So now you can attack twice as your action. Then at 6th level of fighter, you get another ability score improvement. And since we have odd numbers in both our strength and dexterity at this point, let's just go ahead and round those out with 1 point in each. Then at 7th level, we're going to jump into a multi-class. You want to make sure you're specialized at absolutely decimating the fiends you're going up against. And we want to smite those things back to oblivion. So we're going to be jumping into Paladin. At 1st level of Paladin, we get access to Divine Sense. So you can literally smell a terrible odor whenever there's a fiend or undead around you within 60 feet because you just hate them oh so much. Additionally, at this level you get Lay on Hands. So you have a healing pool allowing you to replenish some hit points, which you can mostly just use for yourself, like picking up a health pack, restoring a number of hit points equal to your paladin level times 5. And if you expend at least 5 hit points from that pool, you can cure 1 disease or neutralize a poison effect. Then at 2nd level of paladin, you get another fighting style. And you can't choose the same one as before, but that's okay because you didn't have that option anyways from the Paladin fighting style list, so we're just going to take defense, giving us +1 to our armor class. Additionally, at 2nd level we get access to some spell casting, and you can learn a number of paladin spells equal to your charisma modifier plus half your paladin level. But I would pretty much just focus on spells that really just make you a badass. So grab something like Shield of Faith, making it so you can just tank through hits without being actually damaged, and things like Compelled to Duel, or smites like Thunderous Smite or Wrathful Smite. So if you are attacking with some sort of sword or melee weapon, you can smite the crap out of those fiends and demons and whatever the hell else you're fighting. But you don't have to use the spell slots you get at this level for particular spell casting. Instead, you can use them for smiting the crap out of your enemies with just straight up Divine Smite. Divine Smite allows you to expend a spell slot to deal radiant damage to one of your enemies when you hit them with a melee attack. The extra damage is just 2d8 for a 1st level spell slot, but you get an additional 1d8 for any spell slot that's higher than level 1. This does max out at 5d8, but you get to deal an extra 1d8 damage by default if you happen to be fighting a Fiend, which seems very fitting for the Doomslayer. Then at 3rd level of Paladin you get Divine Health, making you immune to disease, and you get to take a Sacred Oath. There are a few good choices here, like Oath of the Watcher for keeping the demons out of our world, but I like Oath of Devotion for this situation, because you are sure devoted at annihilating fiends. This gives us additional spells like Protection from Good and Evil, which is really helpful for fighting fiends, and Sanctuary, as well as some additional options for using our Channel Divinity, because you can use the feature Channel Divinity for one of two things as a Devotion Paladin. You can turn the unholy, making fiends and undead flee when they see you if they fail a wisdom saving throw, or the one thing I definitely wanted from this subclass, Sacred Weapon, because most paladin stuff requires melee attacks, but we want to make sure we can boost up our ranged attacks as well. And using your Channel Divinity for Sacred Weapon allows you to imbue one weapon that you're holding with positive energy. It doesn't have to be a melee weapon, it can be any type of weapon. For 1 minute, you can add your Charisma modifier to the attack rolls that you make with that weapon, and the weapon also emits a bright magical light, while also making the weapon magical just for overcoming some resistances if you have to deal with that. So you're going to be super accurate when you're swinging with a sword, or if you happen to be shooting with your gun or crossbow or whatever you're using. Then at 4th level of Paladin you get an ability score improvement, so I'm just going to boost up your dexterity by 2 points because it's going to help with all those ranged attacks that you might want to do. Then instead of taking 5th level in Paladin, which would be kind of a waste anyways because the main thing it gives is extra attack, which you already have from being a fighter, we're going to do another multi-class, jumping over to Ranger, because Rangers are known for their 1st level feature having a favored enemy. So you can pick one type of enemy that you really hate, and we're going to choose Fiends. This will allow you to learn one of the languages of Fiends so you can better understand what the hell they're talking about, and you have advantage on survival checks to help track them and things like that. You also get the feature Natural Explorer, so whatever the hell kind of terrain Mars is going to be with all of those demons on it, whether you want that to be Underdark or desert or whatever, you can make that your Natural Explorer environment, making it a bit easier to traverse, at least for you and anybody in your party. Then at 2nd level of Ranger you get a fighting style, and we're going to grab Archery. This gives us a +2 bonus to our accuracy whenever we're using ranged weapons, which is really going to help for plenty of blasting that we're doing with guns or crossbows or whatever you want to use for your ranged attacks. Also at 2nd level of Ranger you get access to some spell casting, but the only spell we really care about is Hunter's Mark. You can use a bonus action to place this on an enemy, and it gives you an additional 1d6 damage whenever you're damaging them. Then at 3rd level of Fighter you get Primeval Awareness, making you much more aware of your surroundings and the enemies that might be close by, and you get to choose a Ranger Conclave, otherwise known as a subclass, and you are known as the Doomslayer. So we're going to go with the Conclave of the Monster Slayer. When you choose this subclass, you get some additional spells you can add to your spell list, like Protection from Evil and Good, which you already have from being a paladin, but more importantly, you get Hunter's Sense. So looking at a creature, you can use an action to learn that creature's damage immunities, resistances, or vulnerabilities. So just like in a lot of games, when there's a big glowy part to shoot, you know to shoot that spot. And additionally at this level, you get access to Slayer's Prey. So as a bonus action, you designate one creature, and the first time you hit that creature on each of your turns with a weapon attack, it takes an extra 1d6 damage from the weapon. But it's still a nice little boost to your damage on top of your Hunter's Mark. Then at 4th level of Ranger you get an ability score improvement, and we're actually going to take a feat, because you already have +2 bonus to your accuracy from your archery, and you have additional bonuses from your sacred weapon that you get from being a paladin. So with the total +4 that you currently have just to your accuracy without even factoring in your dexterity, we're going to take the feat Sharpshooter. This allows you to sacrifice some of your accuracy, giving you a -5 to your attack roll, but you get a +10 to the damage of any ranged attack, which is a pretty massive boost to your damage. Then again, instead of jumping into 5th level, which would give us extra attack, which is completely wasted because we already got it from being a fighter, we're going to go ahead and jump back over to Fighter. So at 7th level of Fighter, you get another feature from being a Rune Knight, Runic Shield. When another creature you can see within 60 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, fail, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to re-roll the d20 and use the new roll. You can only use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest, but this is more for helping out your overall party, which Doomslayer tends to kind of go alone, but in case you want to team up with a buddy. Additionally, because you hit 7th level, you get access to 2 more runes. The first one being a Hill rune, giving you advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance against poison damage, and additionally you can invoke this rune as a bonus action, giving you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for 1 minute. Then the last rune you get access to is a Storm rune. This kind of gives you a slight glimpse into the future, giving you advantage on Arcana checks, and you can't be surprised as long as you aren't incapacitated. Additionally, you can invoke this rune as a bonus action, and for 1 minute until the state ends, when you or another creature you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, a saving throw, or an ability check, you can use your reaction to cause that roll to have advantage or disadvantage. So you can just use your reaction to make your enemies have disadvantage on some sort of attack, or you can really try to force yourself to have advantage on one attack. And lastly, from being a rune knight at this level, you get to learn 1 more rune. So the extra runes to choose from is pretty helpful. Then at 8th level of fighter, we get another ability score improvement, so we're going to boost up our dexterity again, so that way we improved our overall ranged weapon attacking. Then at 9th level of fighter, you get indomitable, allowing you to re-roll a saving throw if you happen to fail one once per long rest. At 10th level of fighter, you get another feature from being a rune knight, Great Stature. So the magic of your runes is permanently altering you. When you gain this feature, you get to roll a 3d4, and you actually grow a number of inches at height equal to the roll. And this is actually kind of helpful because there is recorded heights for the Doomslayer over the course of all of the games he's been in. In Quake 3, he was 6 feet tall. In 2016, he was 6'3", and then in Doom Eternal, he was 6'8". And from growing that extra amount, whenever you use your Giant Might feature, making you grow to large size, your damage boost goes from a 1d6 to a 1d8. And finally, from reaching this level, you get to learn 1 more rune, just rounding out your overall abilities, which is just always helpful to boost you up just a tiny bit more. Then at 11th level of fighter, we get another extra attack. So now we can attack 3 times as our action, and if you use Action Surge, that boosts it to 6 times. Then at 12th level of fighter, and our last level in this build, you get 1 last ability score improvement, and we have a decent amount of health already thanks to that tough feat we get from being a wild spacer, so I just want to go ahead and boost up our strength by 2 points, so you can do a bit more melee attacking with brute strength. Let me know what you think about this build in the comments down below, or if there's any other builds you want to see in the future, let me know down there as well. I took this from the comments and then I threw it over to Patreon and had them vote for the first build of the year, and this wound up winning out. If you want additional voting power in what I build beyond leaving a comment, or you want the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, just like the awesome Caleb Roan, the Dino21, Salvador, and Yaksha Senpai. Or going above and beyond that is my Dungeon Master level patrons that I actually play D&D with. Benjamin, Daniel Galvin, Devin Happy, Eric Wade, GameStake Michael, Ramirez Games, and Tristan Bennett. And Devin Happy is going to be especially happy about this because he's been requesting this one non-stop. Then going above and beyond my Dungeon Master level patrons is my ultimate God tier level patron, Kilo Kilo. He is absolutely epic and I cannot thank him enough. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as the Doom Marine, Doomguy, Hellwalker, Scourge of Hell, the Slayer, the Beast, the Doomslayer.